The air was thick with tension on the outskirts of Earth. The world had been changed forever. Strange, alien ships appeared in the skies, hovering over cities, casting long, ominous shadows over the streets. People were confused, terrified, and curious all at once. The government scrambled to understand the situation, but nothing could have prepared them for what was coming next. At first, the aliens seemed peaceful. They did not attack. They did not speak. They simply watched. The media called them observers. But the people knew something bigger was brewing. There was something in their eyes, a cold, calculating intelligence, a silent promise of change. The ships hovered over cities, but no one knew why. In the heart of New York City, the streets were filled with people looking up at the sky. The aliens had been there for days, and no one had heard from the leaders. The authorities gave no clear answers, only urging the citizens to stay calm. But the people couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something terrible. Among the crowd was a young girl, no older than 7 or 8. Her name was Ayla, and she was standing with her mother in the middle of the busy street. Ayla's bright blue skin stood out against the sea of ordinary faces. She was not human, and the people around her didn't seem to notice. Ayla was an alien, a child of the stars, but she looked just like any other human child. Her eyes were wide with curiosity, her little hand clutching her mother's arm. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. It started quietly but grew louder, like a rumble from deep within the earth. People looked around nervously, but there was no warning, no signal. And then it happened. The first attack. A massive explosion rocked the ground, sending dust and debris flying into the air. The sound was deafening. People screamed and ran in all directions, panic spreading like wildfire. The alien ships, which had once hovered silently in the sky, now opened fire. Their beams of light struck down at the buildings, causing them to crumble and fall in flames. Ayla's mother, quick to react, pulled her daughter close, shielding her with her body. The people around them scattered in fear, but they couldn't escape the destruction. The city was falling apart, and no one knew why. The streets were a war zone, and all hope seemed lost. In the chaos, a human soldier ran by, his face grim with determination. He saw the 2 aliens, mother and child, crouching behind a broken wall, and for a moment, his eyes met Ayla's. There was no fear, no anger, just a strange understanding. He had seen her kind before, in reports and rumors, but he never expected to find one here, in the middle of this disaster. The soldier hesitated. His orders were clear: fight the invaders. But this girl, this alien child, she wasn't like the others. She wasn't part of the attacking force. She was different. His mind raced. What should he do? Was it right to hurt one of them? Or was there something else happening here? The soldier kept running, his thoughts left behind as he joined the battle. Meanwhile, Ayla stood up, her small body tense as the world around her collapsed. The explosions, the gunfire, the cries of the fallen, all of it seemed distant to her. She looked at her mother, who was holding her tightly, trying to protect her. And then, without warning, Ayla spoke, her voice calm amidst the chaos. "Give my mama credit," she shouted, raising her tiny hand in the air. "She'll clean your toilet." Her words were strange, almost nonsensical, but they were not for the humans around her. They were for the one soldier who had seen her. Ayla's words were a challenge, an offer, a plea. She had heard stories of humans before, of their strange customs, their sense of pride, and their sense of humor. In this moment, Ayla knew that the only way to survive was to get the humans to listen, to make them see that she was not their enemy. The soldier froze as he heard her voice. The words didn't make sense, but they carried weight. Something about them struck a chord deep within him. He turned around, his rifle hanging loosely by his side. For a brief second, time seemed to stop. What was this child doing? How could She remained so calm when everything around her was falling apart. How could she speak so confidently in the face of such danger? And then, before anyone could react, the alien ships fired again, their beams tearing through the streets. The soldier took a deep breath, his grip tightening on his rifle. The war had only just begun. But in the midst of the destruction, something new had been planted in his mind, a seed of curiosity. Would the humans and the aliens be able to work together? Or was the war already lost? The battle raged on as alien ships unleashed wave after wave of destruction. The sky above was filled with bright, dangerous beams of light. The ground beneath shook violently, and the city seemed to crumble before the relentless assault. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, Ayla remained calm, her eyes fixed on the soldier who had turned to look back at her. Her small, blue figure stood out against the chaos, her words still echoing in the air. "Give my mom a credit, she clean your toilet." The soldier, still standing in the distance, stared at the alien child. His mind raced. What was she talking about? He had never heard anything like it. What kind of deal was she offering? But as strange as it was, something about her words made him hesitate. He wasn't sure why, but for the first time in the midst of this war, he found himself questioning the orders he had been given. Ayla's mother, still holding her tightly, whispered to her, urging her to stay down and be safe. But Ayla didn't. Listen, the young alien child was no longer frightened. She had a plan. In her mind, the humans weren't just enemies to defeat, they were potential allies. She had learned from the elders of her species that humans were unpredictable, full of pride and stubbornness, but they also had a unique trait, resilience. They survived against all odds, and she knew that resilience was something that could be used to turn the tide of this war. The soldier, now moving toward them cautiously, made a decision. He had no idea what Ayla meant, but he knew that there was something different about her. She wasn't like the others. She wasn't attacking. She wasn't causing destruction. In fact, it was almost as if she was trying to stop it. Without thinking, he lowered his rifle and approached the two aliens. Ayla's mother glanced at him, her eyes filled with distrust, but she said nothing. She didn't know whether to fear him or thank him. Ayla, still standing tall and confident, looked up at the soldier, her small hands clenched in front of her chest. The soldier stopped just a few feet away from them. He didn't know what to expect, but his instincts told him that he had to hear her out. "What do you mean by credit?" he asked, his voice steady but filled with uncertainty. Ayla's eyes locked with his. There was no fear in her gaze, only determination. "You think you're winning," she said, her voice small but clear. "But you're not. My mother can help you. She can clean up your mess, fix your broken systems, make your world better. You just need to listen." The soldier blinked in confusion. This wasn't what he expected. He had been trained to fight the aliens, to defend humanity at any cost. But here, in front of him, was a child who spoke of peace in the middle of a war. "Your mother?" the soldier asked, his brow furrowed. "What can she do?" Ayla didn't hesitate. "She's a skilled engineer. She knows how to repair and rebuild. She can fix what's broken in your world, the things you're too busy fighting to care about. All you have to do is stop the war." The soldier didn't know what to make of this. A child offering peace in exchange for something so simple, a credit. And yet, in the middle of all the destruction, Ayla's offer was strangely appealing. He turned his head, looking back at the war zone unfolding behind him. The explosions, the gunfire, the crumbling buildings, it was all so much. They were losing ground. But what if Ayla was right? What if the solution didn't lie in violence? What if peace was the answer? But would the humans accept this idea? Could they trust the aliens? The soldier shook his head, his hand tightening around his weapon once again. It wasn't enough. There were too many people relying on him to fight. They couldn't just stop The war. The enemy ships would never agree to peace. But then, he glanced back at Ayla, her big blue eyes staring back at him with an odd mix of hope and sincerity. Is it really possible? The soldier asked, his voice softer now. Can she really help us? Ayla nodded. You'll see. Just stop fighting for a moment. Let her work. We can fix what you've destroyed. The soldier was silent for a moment, the weight of his decision heavy on his shoulders. He knew that the decision he made now could change everything. But the question remained, could he trust this alien child? Could humanity trust them? Behind him, the sound of more explosions rang out, but the soldier didn't turn around. Instead, he took one last long look at Ayla. He made his choice. Okay, he said finally, I'll try. But the rest of the humans, they'll never go for it. Ayla smiled. That's why I'm here. The soldier nodded, his face filled with a mix of uncertainty and hope. Maybe this wasn't the end of the world after all. Maybe there was still a chance to make peace. But the clock was ticking, and Ayla's mother had to work fast. The war was far from over, and the humans were still unsure whether to trust the aliens. But one thing was clear. This was only the beginning. Asterisk. The soldier's decision to trust Ayla weighed heavily on him. He stood there for a moment, looking at her with a sense of both uncertainty and curiosity. His thoughts were a whirlwind. Could this really work? Could one small alien child and her mother really help fix the destruction caused by the war? Everything he knew, everything he was trained to do, told him to fight, to destroy. But Ayla's eyes, filled with an almost otherworldly determination, had convinced him to at least listen. Behind him, the sounds of war continued. The alien ships fired relentlessly from above, their laser beams lighting up the sky, striking down any building or vehicle in their path. The human forces below fired back, but the alien technology was far superior. No matter how much resistance they put up, it felt like a losing battle. The city was falling apart, and the humans had no clear way of winning. But Ayla's offer, her mother, the engineer, seemed like a sliver of hope in an otherwise dark and desperate world. The soldier looked at her again. Where is your mother? He asked. Ayla pointed toward a nearby building that had once been a community center, now partially destroyed by an alien attack. She's inside, she said simply. She's waiting. The soldier hesitated for a moment before making up his mind. The war zone around him was chaotic, but he couldn't ignore the chance to stop the destruction. If Ayla's mother really could repair and rebuild, it could make all the difference. He motioned for Ayla to lead the way. Show me. Ayla nodded, turning on her heel and walking calmly toward the damaged building. The soldier followed her, keeping an eye on his surroundings. The air was thick with smoke, and the ground was littered with debris. The distant sound of gunfire echoed through the streets, a constant reminder of the war that still raged around them. As they reached the building, Ayla led the soldier through a broken entrance into the dimly lit interior. There, standing in the middle of the room, was a woman. Her skin was blue like Ayla's, her long silver hair flowing around her shoulders. She looked calm, almost serene, despite the chaos outside. She was busy examining a set of broken wires and equipment scattered around a table. The soldier took a cautious step forward, his eyes narrowing. Is this your mother? He asked, looking at Ayla. Ayla smiled, a sense of pride in her expression. Yes, this is my mother. She's the one who can help. The woman, who had been concentrating on her work, finally looked up. Her eyes, just like Ayla's, were bright and focused. She gave the soldier a small, knowing smile. I've heard your people call us invaders, but we're not here to destroy, she said, her voice calm but firm. We're here to offer you a way out of this conflict. Your world is broken, and so is mine. But we have the power to fix it. We just need your trust. The soldier wasn't sure what to say. Could he really trust them? Could he trust the two aliens, one of whom was just a child, to fix everything that had been broken? But something about her presence, her calmness in the face of chaos, made him wonder if this was the answer they had been waiting for. He glanced around the room. The building was in shambles, much like the city outside. The walls were cracked, the ceiling partially caved in, and the lights flickered intermittently. The technology they had, the alien equipment on the table, was advanced beyond anything humans had ever seen. But there was something else about it, something that made the soldier feel that these aliens were not just invaders, they were trying to help. "What can you do?" he asked, his voice filled with skepticism. "How can you fix this? You're asking me to stop fighting, but how can I convince the others to listen? They won't just stop attacking." Ayla's mother looked at him, her expression soft but unwavering. "The battle isn't over. But if you stop fighting for just one moment, I can help you rebuild what's been destroyed. I can fix your broken systems, your energy grids, your transportation, your communications. Your world doesn't have to burn." The soldier frowned. "You're asking for a truce, but the other side won't listen. The aliens are attacking, destroying everything we've built. How do you stop that?" The woman walked over to the table, picking up a strange device. It looked like a small black orb, and as she held it in her hand, it began to glow with a soft blue light. "This device can disable their weapons temporarily," she said. "Just long enough to get them to listen. But it will only work if you trust me. If you agree to stop fighting, just for a moment." The soldier looked at the device, his thoughts racing. It seemed too simple, too easy. Could one small device really stop the destruction? Could one pause in the fighting change the outcome of this war? It felt like too much to ask. But something in Ayla's mother's eyes made him feel that this might be their only chance. He let out a long sigh and made his decision. "I'll do it," he said quietly. "But I don't know if I can convince the others." "You don't have to," Ayla's mother replied, her voice filled with quiet confidence. "I'll show you how." The soldier stood still, his mind filled with a mix of doubt and hope. The offer was clear: stop the fighting, trust the aliens, and give them a chance to help rebuild the broken world. But the weight of his decision was immense. Could he really make a difference in this war by following the aliens' lead? Could the humans accept peace when they were already knee-deep in destruction? Ayla's mother held the device in her hand, its faint blue glow casting an eerie light in the dim room. She stepped forward and placed it carefully on the table in front of the soldier. The soldier stared at it, still unsure about how such a small, inconspicuous object could change the course of the war. "You have to trust me," Ayla's mother sighed quietly. "This device will shut down their weapons long enough to give us the chance we need. But the window is small. You must act quickly." The soldier nodded slowly, his thoughts swirling. He could feel the pressure of the moment, the weight of his decision, but there was also a spark of something else, something he hadn't felt in a long time. It was hope, fragile but real. Ayla, standing nearby, looked up at him. "You have to do it," she said in a voice that was almost pleading. "The fighting has to stop. My mother can help you." The soldier's eyes met hers, and for a moment, he saw something beyond her small alien frame, a deep, unspoken understanding that transcended their differences. In her innocent eyes, there was the possibility of peace. A possibility he hadn't allowed himself to believe in for a long time. He turned to Ayla's mother. "How do we get them to stop fighting?" he asked, his voice low and steady. Ayla's mother gave him a slight smile, a look of quiet assurance. "We need to send a signal, one that reaches the enemy ships. It's not just about disabling their weapons. It's about showing them that we're willing to listen. If they don't hear our signal, the war will continue. But if they do, we have a chance to negotiate." The soldier took a deep breath. his mind running through all the possible outcomes. He knew that this wasn't going to be easy. He didn't know if the enemy would listen, or if they would destroy everything before they even had a chance to speak. "Can you do it?" he asked. Ayla's mother nodded. "I can, but you must act quickly. We don't have much time." With that, the soldier's resolve hardened. He turned toward the door, motioning for Ayla and her mother to follow him. "Let's do this." As they stepped out into the street, the soldier couldn't help but feel the weight of the world pressing down on him. The city was still burning, the explosions still rang in the distance, but now there was a new urgency. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about hope. If this failed, there was no telling what would happen to the planet. Ayla's mother moved with determination, and the soldier followed, keeping an eye out for any movement in the war-torn streets. They moved quickly, avoiding the scattered groups of soldiers and civilians still caught in the chaos. The alien ships above were relentless, their weapons blazing down on anything in sight. But Ayla's mother was focused, and the soldier could see the calm in her every step. Finally, they arrived at a large communication tower that had been partially destroyed but still standing. It was the perfect place to broadcast the signal. The soldier knew that this tower was one of the few links between the human forces and their command center, and if the signal could be broadcast from here, there was a chance it would reach the enemy ships. Ayla's mother wasted no time. She pulled out a set of tools and began working on the tower's damaged systems. Her hands moved quickly, expertly, as if she had done this 1,000 times before. The soldier watched her, his heart racing. Time was running out. He glanced up at the sky, watching the alien ships above. They were still attacking, still firing relentlessly. He felt the urge to grab his weapon, to continue fighting. But he forced himself to stay calm. They had to trust the plan. Ayla stood next to him, her small hand gripping his arm. "It will work," she said, her voice calm but confident. "You just have to believe." The soldier looked down at her, unsure of how much he believed in the idea of peace. He had spent his entire life preparing for war, for battle. And now, in the face of it, he was asked to believe in something entirely different. A faint click sounded from the tower as Ayla's mother completed her work. She stepped back, wiping the sweat from her brow. "It's ready," she said. "Now we send the signal." The soldier stepped forward, pulling a small device from his pocket. It was a human-made communicator, one he had used countless times to contact his command center. He connected it to the system Ayla's mother had repaired, and a screen flickered. "To life, this is it," the soldier said, taking a deep breath. "We're sending the message, it's now or never." Ayla's mother nodded. "Do it." With one final press of a button, the soldier sent the signal. It would travel up through the tower and reach the enemy ships. The silence that followed was deafening. Seconds passed. Then minutes. The soldier's heart pounded in his chest as he waited, watching the skies. Was the signal working? Had the enemy received it? Then, just as the tension in the air reached its breaking point, the alien ships above faltered. Their weapons stopped firing, the beams of destruction halting mid-air. For the first time in days, there was silence. The soldier looked at Ayla and her mother. They had done it. The impossible had happened. The fighting had stopped, if only for a moment. But the real battle was only just beginning. The silence that fell over the city was almost unnatural. For the first time in days, there was no explosion, no gunfire, no whirring of alien weaponry. The alien ships, which had been tearing apart the Earth's defenses only moments before, now hovered above the city like giant silent predators. Their weapons, once powerful and destructive, were now dormant. The world seemed to pause, as if holding its breath. The soldier stood motionless, his eyes trained on the skies above. His heart was racing, his body tense. The signal had been sent, but would the enemy actually respond? Would they understand the message? Or would this fragile moment of peace shatter as quickly as it had appeared? Beside him, Ayla's mother was calm, her face betraying no hint of uncertainty. She knew they had done everything they could, and now it was up to the enemy to decide the next move. Ayla, too, stood quietly, her blue eyes fixed on the sky. Then, from one of the alien ships, a low hum filled the air. It started as a faint vibration, barely noticeable, but quickly grew louder. The soldier's grip tightened around his rifle instinctively, but he didn't raise it. He waited. Whatever happened next would determine whether the peace had a chance to take root. The hum intensified, and then a crackling voice echoed through the air, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. It was in a language the soldier didn't understand, but the tone, calm, measured, was unmistakable. Ayla's mother turned to him, her face expressionless. "They've received the signal," she said simply. The soldier nodded, trying to keep his breathing steady. He had no idea what the aliens were saying, but the fact that they were responding at all meant that something was happening. The war wasn't over yet, but it was no longer the same. Suddenly, the hum stopped, replaced by a loud, clear voice that came through a speaker at the base of one of the nearby buildings. This time, the language was different. It was human. Human. "Forces," the voice said. "This is your final warning. Cease all military actions immediately. Any further aggression will be met with full retaliation." The soldier's heart sank. The words were a threat, no doubt about it. The enemy wasn't backing down completely. They were still willing to fight. It was clear they hadn't fully accepted Ayla's offer. Ayla's mother stepped forward, her expression unwavering. "They're testing us," she said quietly. "They want to see if we'll respond with violence. If we do, the peace is over." The soldier felt a wave of frustration. The message was clear, but it was a game of brinksmanship. The aliens were still unwilling to fully negotiate. They were watching for the first sign of weakness, a single moment when the humans might give in to fear or anger and fire back. "Are you telling me we just stand here?" the soldier asked, his voice rising with frustration. "We've been fighting for days, and now we're supposed to just wait? Let them decide what happens next." Ayla's mother turned to him, her eyes sharp. "Yes," she said firmly. "We wait. This is how it works. If we act in fear, we lose. But if we show them that we can control ourselves, then there's a chance for peace. We need to prove that we are willing to negotiate." The soldier clenched his fists, his mind racing. He had always been trained to act, to fight, to protect at any cost. And now he was being asked to do the opposite, to hold back, to trust the aliens who had once been his enemies, to offer peace. A voice broke through his thoughts. It was Ayla's. "You have to believe," she said softly, looking up at him with her wide, trusting eyes. "My mother isn't lying. This can work. You just have to give it time." The soldier looked down at the small alien girl, her blue skin glowing softly in the dim light. There was something in her gaze, something unshakable. She believed this was possible. Maybe it was her faith in the idea of peace that made the soldier pause. He had fought for so long, fought for a future where Earth could stand strong against invaders. But Ayla's innocence, her hope, made him think that maybe the true strength wasn't in fighting, but in holding back. The voice crackled again from the alien ship, its tone colder this time. "You have 10 minutes to comply. Failure to cease all hostile actions will result in further consequences." The soldier's mind was spinning, his instincts at war with one another. The clock was ticking, and the choice seemed impossible. Was peace really possible? Or was this just another trick to wear them down before they struck again? Ayla's mother stepped forward, her voice steady. "This is our moment," she said. "We have to be brave. We have to show them that we will not fight in anger." The soldier took a deep breath, his mind made up. He had no idea what the next 10 minutes would bring, but one thing was certain. He couldn't let this moment slip away. He couldn't let the fear of what might happen keep him from trying to make a difference. "All right," he said, his voice firm. "We wait." The three of them stood there, looking up at the ships above. The city around them was still, as if the world itself was holding its breath. There was no turning back now. The next few minutes would determine everything. Then, as the clock ticked down, the hum from the alien ship stopped. And with that, the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Asterisk. The minutes stretched on endlessly. Each second felt like an eternity as the soldier, Ayla, and her mother stood beneath the looming alien ships, waiting for the inevitable response. The hum that had once filled the air was now gone, replaced by an eerie silence that seemed to choke the very life out of the war-torn city around them. Ayla's hand tightened around the soldier's arm. He looked down at her, seeing the calm in her eyes, her belief in what they were doing. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't questioning their decision. For a moment, he envied her certainty. She believed that peace was still possible, and that belief gave him the strength to hold back from doing what he had always been trained to do: fight. The alien ships remained still above, their dark forms casting shadows over the broken city. The soldier felt the weight of his rifle at his side, a constant reminder of the choice he was forced to make. Every instinct screamed at him to take action, to defend humanity. But Ayla's mother was right. If they gave in to the violence now, there would be no hope for the future. They had to show restraint. And so, they waited. Then, just as the soldier thought he might go mad with the tension, a soft voice echoed through the air. It wasn't a loudspeaker, nor was it the same harsh voice they had heard before. This time, it was clearer, more human, though still tinged with an alien undertone. "We have received your message," the voice said. "We have been watching. We will allow this truce to continue, but only if you agree to our terms. A ceasefire for now. No further aggression." The soldier's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The first real response they had received, and acknowledgement of their offer. Ayla's mother nodded, as if she had expected this. "We agree," she said firmly. "But the war will end. No more fighting. We will work together." There was a long pause. The soldier felt his hands shake slightly as he held his rifle. Was this really happening? Was the war actually going to end? Finally, the voice spoke again. "Your words will be tested. We will give you a chance to prove that you can honor this agreement. If you do, we will help you. But if you break the truce, the consequences will be severe." The soldier took a deep breath, his heart still racing. He had never been so uncertain in his life. The weight of this moment hung over him like a cloud. Would humanity be able to follow through? Would they be able to trust the aliens? And most importantly, could they live up to their promise of peace? "We will honor our word," Ayla's mother said with unwavering certainty. "We will not break this truce. This war ends now." For a long moment, there was silence. The alien ships remained motionless, hovering above them. The soldier could see them more clearly now, massive, sleek vessels that seemed to shimmer with a strange, otherworldly energy. They were powerful, far beyond anything humanity had ever built. And yet, in that moment, they didn't seem so threatening. They were just waiting, watching. Then, slowly, the ships began to move. The dark forms shifted in the sky, their movements deliberate, controlled. They didn't retreat, but they didn't attack either. They simply hovered above, their weapons dormant. Ayla's mother stepped forward, her voice steady and filled with hope. "This is the beginning. We can build something together. If we trust each other, if we stop fighting, we can fix everything. Your world doesn't have to be destroyed." The soldier felt a knot in his chest loosen. There was still so much to be done. The war wasn't over, and the truce was fragile. But for the first time in days, he allowed himself to believe that there might be a way forward, a way out of the destruction, a way to rebuild. He looked down at Ayla, who was smiling up at him. Her blue skin glowed softly in the dim light of the dying day, and in her eyes was the hope for a future that no one had dared to imagine. "We did it," the soldier said quietly, though his voice carried the weight of disbelief. "We really did it," Ayla nodded, her smile widening. "You just had to believe." The soldier glanced back at the ships above, his mind still processing the unimaginable. The fighting had stopped. The destruction had ceased. There was a chance now, a chance to rebuild, to create a world where they could live without war. But it wasn't just up to him anymore. It wasn't just up to Ayla or her mother. It was up to everyone, human and alien alike, to honor the truce, to choose peace over war, to put aside fear, pride, and hatred. And as he stood there, beneath the silent alien ships, the soldier made a promise to himself. No matter what happened next, he would fight for peace. The war had ended for now, but the true battle of trust, understanding, and rebuilding had just begun. The first steps toward a new world, a new future, were now in motion. And with Ayla's belief and her mother's strength, the soldier had hoped that this new future was possible.